Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Tashana. Let's get into this. So, hi guys. I hope all is well. This evening, we're going to be discussing divination tools, okay? We have discussed the difference between divination, spirituality, and religion. I want to say around the summertime, and we even discussed, I want to say maybe last summer, us no longer needing to set up altars, right, for whatever it is. And I think the conversation had even come back up maybe around the end of the year. The Creator wants us to see that He's sending those frequencies back around. So when you get to calling on these ancestors or these spirits, you can actually attract them to places that they're not supposed to be, right? And if you are doing that, then you are disturbing the frequency and order of things, right? Not the divine order, but the order of things. You are disturbing the frequency, and I don't need to tell you that creates karma and a bunch of confusion. And you can even have these ancestors miss out on the window that they're supposed to be coming through to come back, whether it's coming here or wherever they're supposed to be going. Because remember, if these are interdimensional beings and you're calling on them, depending on your ranking and the reason why you're calling them, they are going to come to your aid as opposed to being where they're supposed to be going, right? So we don't need the altars anymore. And we were gonna just go over some divination tools a little bit and just also go over tarot cards, okay? So I did a little reading. Initially, tarot cards were made for entertainment, right? It was like around the late 1300s, there was a king. What was his name? The sixth king of France. I don't know his name. I forgot his name. I wrote it down, but I can't find all my notes. But you guys can Google that, right? You can actually Google all of this stuff. Then around the 1400s, they started to become used in different religions, right? So in Egypt, a lot of different pre-civilization cultures began to use tarot cards. And I understand why anyone would say that it is a divination tool. However, remember, there is a difference between divination, religion, and spirituality. And perhaps our minds have been warped and we don't really know the real definition of these things. And we have been using these terms interchangeably without really having the full detail on, what this stuff really is about. Now, before we go down that road, I just want to cover some tools, right? So people use pendulums, mirrors, crystal, wood, stones, of course, tarot cards, water, tea leaves, runes, astrology, astronomy, Reiki healing, or the chakras. Now, all of this stuff is considered a sin, right? As far as religion is concerned, it's considered a sin in Christianity because it's seen as idolatry and an iniquity, okay? There are several Bible verses that actually cover both ends. When I say both ends, I mean that support and that are for. I mean, if you're familiar with the Bible, then you know about the story about the witch of Endor, right? It's the witch that Saul consulted with to summon the spirit of Samuel, right? And I think he was trying to get the revelation of who was going to win the war and if he was going to die or something like that. and it was a revelation. The Spirit told him, do not go into this war or you will die. And he ended up dying. I think it was something like that. Don't quote me. But the point that I'm making is that the book tells us not to engage in witchcraft, but here you go. Here is a prime example in this very book. And I'm not speaking against the Bible at all. I'm just saying that this is contradictory, right? So when you start looking at spirituality and divination as well as religion, you might want to start looking at the perspectives a little more open-mindedly, right? We haven't really gone into detail about the tools used to practice. First of all, I don't practice witchcraft. Like I said, I think I told you guys before, I don't do altars. I started to do it when I went through my first dark night of the soul. I set up an altar. It was a really cool altar, actually. I needed it at the time. And this was way before I had even come out with the message of us not needing them, right? And I'm saying that because I didn't use the altars for a very long time. And the message of not needing them came out, I want to say, in 2023, right? In 2023. But I had set up my altar in 2020, and then I stopped using it in 2021. And like I said, it was short-lived. I think the invitation was enough because their presence was already there. And I think that's another thing. You are already surrounded by your ancestors, right? Your spirit guides. The only thing that you can really be calling in, is your guides, because your angels and your ancestors are guarding you already. So there are other ways. You don't have to summon. You can easily ask the Creator for assistance, for the proper angels to come in for whatever it is that you're calling on them for. You don't have to necessarily set up an altar. That's a whole different conversation, but it is a divination tool. It is something that people use to practice. So the point that I was making is that I don't practice. So first of all, I can't go into much detail. The only thing I can do is go off of personal accounts of others and whatever I come up from engaging in my own research, right? If people decide to tell me what it is that they do, I know this isn't something that you just go ahead and just talk about, right? This is a spiritual thing, especially if you're like doing it for evil and you're like casting spells and stealing and spying and stuff like that. You're not going to be so open to having such a conversation, right? So, and of course, the Bible isn't exclusive to Christians, right? Meditation isn't solely for the conscious community. However, tools to practice these different forms of, witchcraft, spirituality, seeking knowledge, or whatever you want to call it, we have to understand that none of the things that are used are not exclusive to what they're being used for. Okay? Just like people use the Bible to cast spells, people use the Bible to find God, right? Just like people, use the water to scry and spy, people use the water to heal, right? And to manifest and to transmute. So we have to be careful when we look at these tools, including tarot specifically, because I'm seeing that there's a growth in the spiritual world as far as the use of tarot cards goes, and I'm finding that more and more people are becoming more involved and educated about tarot. You have to have a certain gift, first of all, to read tarot, right? Number one, I found out technically the cards are for yourself. So if you are reading for someone else, you have to really be gifted and tuned into the ethers on a totally different level to read energy for people, especially if you call yourself doing like collective readings or, readings for strangers, or, because this can simply be you just projecting your own pulling onto other people, unless the creator has gifted you, right, with the ability to use the cards as what? A tool to assist. Again, some people use the cards to spy on people. They overstep their boundaries. They don't fully understand that the cards are used to assist, right? They're used as another piece. They're used as another piece to add on to the utilization of your tools. So if you have a gift and you have some way of how you use said gifts, the cards are just an aid, right, to pretty much confirm, and I mean, like I said, some people use it as entertainment. So not everyone is looking to, have this full-on usage of tarot, even though some people do, because some people rely on tarot for everything. It's highly addictive, but it can open portals. And I think that's the main thing why it was viewed as the way it is, because first of all, the reason why it was invented is not even the reason why people are still using them today. So that's the first thing, right? The intention behind it might be sorted. So it's important to do the history, and we've gone into that, right? Doing history on things and really knowing the root of where they come from and the true vibration that they carry. Because no matter how much sugar you put on some shit, once you remove all the sugar, or if you get to the root of the tutor, or no matter what you say, the shit is still there at the root, at the base, right? So we have to start looking at these things from a proper perspective, right? Knowing that if we are engaging in any of these things, it's because the creator has given us the capacity to utilize these things. I don't have to tell you that some people should just not be messing with this stuff, right? And then we also went over how some bloodlines, the creator allowed these type of frequencies and spirits to run rampant through certain bloodlines, right? So it all just depends on your intentions, if you were anointed to do so, if you were called to do so, because remember we talked about being called and being anointed. Of course, if you are called, you are anointed, right? But not all anointed people are called. Some people are just anointed and blessed, and they're not called, and they're just blessed because of their bloodline, or because they just so happen to fall in the right frequency of the generation. I know it sounds weird. Usually it doesn't work out like that. If you have the anointing, the creator is not going to allow the anointing to be wasted. And that is a different topic that we also need to go over, because we've gone over that, but a lot of people, it went over their heads, and it's a lot of information that we have to do some research on before we start just moving forward and stepping into things that have absolutely no meaning or correlation to the calling and the anointing, and just learning how to recognize and separate, right, the two, and learning how to utilize the two. Okay, but I'm gonna end it here. I do love y'all. I hope all is well. I hope y'all are drinking your water, eating your fruit and vegetables, and sipping on your own tea because it's free. All right, love y'all. Peace. I'm out of here.